Welcome to Season 5 of Pants Around Ankles Prevention, where my mission is to help you keep your pants securely buckled and avoid that unexpected, awkward, and embarrassing moment when you realize suddenly that they're not. This season, we're going to do things a little differently with shorts around ankles prevention. Quick, power-packed episodes designed to deliver a punch of truth to help you wake up to a new perspective. Let's see what today's short has in store. Let's talk about climbing the wrong ladder. In the very famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey wrote, "If the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take is just gets us to the wrong place faster." Well, that requires no explanation, does it? But ever since I read that book, which was a long time ago, I've been troubled by 2 things. First, nobody sets out to climb the wrong ladder. And secondly, a lot of times we don't discover we're on the wrong ladder till we get to the top. A very, very common example of this is found in the idea that money can buy happiness. Too many people spend their lives in the pursuit of money, and once they've accumulated it, discover that the happiness they expected doesn't appear. Okay, so nobody sets out to climb the wrong ladder. Covey tries to help us by saying we need to begin with the end in mind. Well, yeah, but that presupposes that we know what the end in mind should be for us, and most of us don't. I certainly didn't, and I'm not sure I still, even today, if I do. And there's a number of things going on inside of me as I'm sharing this with you that's troubling. First, the metaphor of climbing the ladder is, again, a bit problematic. Ladders are finite in length, and there's an implication that we can reach the top of the ladder and therefore that the journey is finite and linear, and it is not. What might be the perfect ladder for us at age 20 and where we need to climb at age 35 can be entirely different. Ditto for 50 and 65 and 70 something. In fairness to Covey, his book is about the habits of highly effective people. And as we look around us, it's clear that many people do not even make a conscious choice about beginning with the end in mind or which ladder to start to climb. So beginning with any end in mind, consciously selected, is probably a step up for much of society. But there's a third thing that comes into my awareness that I'm finding troubling. What if? What if there is no wrong ladder? I suggested that the ladder that you might need at age 20 and what's appropriate for you at 35 could be different. But what if each of them is not just appropriate, but actually necessary? In my career, I've shifted from being an engineer to a contractor to a consultant to a trainer to a different kind of consultant. And the ladder I'm climbing now, the ladder of trying to be a writer, would likely not have been possible without all the other ladders I've climbed, at least from the standpoint of what I write about. So, on reflection, because we usually don't see this stuff when you're in the middle of it, I can see how each ladder led to a different ladder, and some of the ladders did not appear at all until I had reached the top of the previous one. So in a certain way of looking at it, each ladder was perhaps right, perhaps wrong, but definitely a necessary one. One of the things Covey's book tries to do, in my opinion, is to bring clarity to what separates exceptional from ordinary, but defining these 7 habits. That's great. But I think it's rare for an individual to simply and cleanly implement those. Ladders are straight paths with definite beginnings and ending points that form a linear, neat, straight line, and life doesn't work that way. The image is climbing the ladder. Yeah, but sometimes to make progress, you might need to descend. For example, by discarding the good so you can say yes to the best. And as I said, life is not linear. It may be linear chronologically, but not in terms of our personal journeys through it. Okay, I now may be guilty of overstretching and abusing this metaphor. Metaphors are great for illustrating ideas or clarifying complex or abstract ones, but probably shouldn't be taken literally, and I may be doing a little bit too much of that. But life rarely presents us with a nice, clean, clear path where climbing a ladder is the perfect metaphor. We tend to treat life decisions, the ladders we pick, as permanent and irreversible. It makes far more sense to realize that most decisions we make are very reversible. When we recognize that a decision is no longer serving us, we can alter our course, adjust, and continue to move forward. I'm a pilot. I used to own an airplane. And when I would take off to fly from point A to point B, if I pointed the airplane at point B and held that course, I would never get there because the wind's aloft would blow me off course. So I'd point my airplane's nose off point B into the wind a little bit to stay on course. And then as the wind would shift, I'd have to alter my course again. And by the way, I didn't go back to point A and start over when I drifted off course. I kept going. Then there's the other really interesting thing that happens with ladders. They choose you. There are times in our lives when we walk past some ladder, not choosing it. And then further along the way, the ladder appears again. When this happens again, if you're suitably awake, you start asking yourself just what this ladder represents and perhaps why you might be avoiding it. Back in episode 14 from this season, we discussed the idea around Rumi's quote of what you seek is seeking you. So here's the thing. When a ladder appears twice, that's no longer an invitation. It's more of a demand. Life is not subtle when it wants your attention. Most people ignore these patterns because they do not like what they think the ladder is going to be demanding of them. Growth, risk, exposure, feeling unprepared, all the things we want to avoid. But you're responsible for what you avoid. Avoidance is a choice, and choices have consequences. So the real question is not which ladder is right. The real question is this. Which ladder has been following you? And what price are you paying by refusing to climb it? And by the way, don't pretend you don't know what it is. If you'd like a deeper dive into this topic, consider subscribing to our newsletter, Waking Up, where we will explore it in even more detail. And if you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. See you soon.